Something that I can't get off my mind is the possibility of NASCAR adding a fourth stage. As of recording this video, it's the off season for NASCAR and nothing has been announced yet. But NASCAR did bring up the possibility of adding a fourth stage last year, but they held off on it. Like, I don't know, for some reason I just got a feeling it's going to become an actual thing starting in 2021. If it does, it's two things you can say goodbye to: long green flag runs and green flag pit stops. What NASCAR fails to realize is that green flag pit stops is one of the many exciting things when watching auto racing. Watching a pit stop under yellow isn't as exciting because, well, you're under caution. Everyone is doing 35 to 55 miles per hour coming on the pit road, and pit crews don't have a lot of pressure on them compared to a green flag pit stop. When green flag pit stops are happening, everything is moving at a way faster pace. Drivers are coming on the pit road from 190 miles per hour to 55 miles per hour on the pit road, trying to carry as much speed on the pit road before finally having to slow down to the speed limit before they get to the commitment line. Pit crews are having to make sure they don't make any mistakes, because if they do, it could cost their driver a ton of time, which would be really difficult to make up. So you get what I'm saying. Green flag pit stops are really important in not just NASCAR but auto racing in general. Ever since NASCAR has thrown around the idea of possibly implementing a fourth stage, I try to come up with ways to still have green flag pit stops, because let's face it, NASCAR isn't going to get rid of the stage yellows. So one of the solutions I came up with was NASCAR going to a smaller fuel cell for the cars. Currently, a NASCAR holds up to 22 gallons of fuel, which will usually let the drivers go 55 to 65 laps on fuel at a mile and a half. Now, of course, it depends on the track size, but I use mile and a half because that's what makes up a good portion of the NASCAR schedule. Now, NASCAR going to a smaller fuel cell isn't anything new. Back in 2003, NASCAR reduced the fuel cell size. Instead of holding 22 gallons, it held 13 gallons. This was done at the super speedway tracks at Daytona and Talladega. The goal was to have the drivers make more pit stops so that way the field can be separated a little bit more. They were basically trying to break up the packs. This ended up kinda working, at Daytona at least. Daytona at the time was more of a handling track, so the field would get spread out anyway. Talladega, the field would pack back up eventually. So, let's say NASCAR adds a fourth stage. A stage length will most likely be short enough for the cars to go the distance on fuel with the current fuel cell. There's a few exceptions though, Texas being a 500-mile race, and the Coca-Cola 600 where it's 100 laps for each stage. Not to mention the Coca-Cola 600 is already 4 stages, so it doesn't affect this race because the race is so damn long to begin with. If NASCAR reduces the fuel cells from being able to hold 22 gallons to holding 13 gallons instead, there's a better chance of seeing green flag pit stops. This will have drivers being able to go 28 to possibly 40 laps at most tracks. Once again, using mile and a half for example, because that makes up majority of the cup schedule. I will imagine that since an extra stage is being added, that most stage lengths are going to be shorter, which means that at a track like Kansas, the stage length might be 50 laps. So with the reduced fuel cell size, which will have drivers going from 28 to possibly 40 laps on fuel, you can possibly see green flag pit stops. Now you have to factor in cautions for incidents and debris, because even if one caution happens throughout that stage, you can say goodbye to green flag pit stops because drivers are going to pit under caution. So with that being said, a smaller fuel cell doesn't guarantee that we'll see green flag pit stops, but it will still be possible. This is probably the best solution to combat the fourth stage of eliminating green flag pit stops. Another idea which probably wouldn't work is Goodyear making the tires so soft that drivers will only be able to go 30 laps at most with their tires. But I couldn't see that happening because Goodyear already has trouble bringing soft tires to the track, especially with the package that NASCAR has in place, the low horsepower, high downforce package. So Goodyear pretty much are forced to bring hard tires, because if they try to bring soft tires, well, you're gonna have tire failures every 10 laps. So I'm probably worrying for nothing. Maybe NASCAR doesn't implement a fourth stage and I made this video for no reason. But if they do, I would like to see this get put in place. But knowing NASCAR, they'll probably just implement the fourth stage and leave the fuel cell size alone. But that's my thoughts on this subject. I want to hear from y'all. If NASCAR ends up implementing the fourth stage, do you guys think that they're going to reduce the fuel cell size? Do y'all want to see the fuel cell size reduced? Or do you guys just want to see the fuel cell size reduced in general, even if they don't implement a fourth stage? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to go ahead and head up out of here, and you guys have a good one. Peace.